Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on Leading Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Coming up in just a few minutes, it will seem like a segment just for guys, but it's really meant to be a segment for guys and their partners in their lives, especially their friends. We're going to have that conversation with an esteemed author in just a few minutes. But first, I have been meaning to get her in here since she was named president of Toledo City Council back in January. I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to get right to Carrie Hartman, who is joining us here on Leading Edge. Welcome, and thank you so much for spending some time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to jump right in. I started making a laundry list of things that I wanted to talk to you about. But one of the things that came up a couple of months ago here on the show, I had a political pundit, a political enthusiast, if you will, who writes for a local paper here in town. And this was just, Carrie, this was just after the pay-to-play scandal had been put to bed with former city council members. And I said to him, what's your read on council right now? Where does council need to go? His answer, it needs to skew younger. I want to get your thoughts on that because I feel like it's already happening.
Yeah, I think it very much has since that scandal that
and I also want to say youth is a relative term as well, how you view what that means, right?
I think we have a lot of young or younger members right now. I think we've definitely seen a bit of a generational shift where even just, I used to work in the mayor's office back in 2015, 2016, and even then, council was a bit older. I remember at the time Matt Cherry was the youngest council member back then. And now I'll just say it on air, I suppose, but I'm 41, and I'm one of the older ones on council right now.
Right.
A lot of members are still in their late 30s or turning 40, and so it does feel fairly young.
And I can tell you from a media perspective as well, and this is not meant to be offensive in any way. We don't recognize there are people whose names have been linked to Toledo City Council and Toledo politics for years, whether it be legacies, whether it just be they were there for a long time. But there are a lot of names we don't recognize. And the players, right? It's like a new baseball team.
It is. It's very much a new baseball team, but we're ready. I think to use the baseball reference, we're no longer junior varsity. We are varsity, right? And a lot of us have been working in the community for a long time and are dedicated public servants. And so honestly, being in your 40s doesn't feel very young to me anymore, right? But it does feel great that we've got some new faces. You can't get the 20 under 40 anymore.
I can't. You're out of the league now.
I never did get that either. But some other of our members have, though. So it does feel great to have some younger voices and new voices on council as well.
And quickly, let's talk about getting the presidency in January. And was that out of left field? Was that something you were interested in? How did it come about?
It's definitely something everyone's interested in it, right? I think ultimately, I'm a public servant. I'm willing to do whatever it takes for the city. I didn't expect to become president. I had only been on council for a year. I expected it to go to someone with more seniority. But given my history working for the city of Toledo for so many years, serving 2 mayors, given my experience in the political sector as well, I was really urged by my members and other people in the community to just go for it. The time was right, and so I did. And a
fire in your belly as well as far as politics is concerned. Here's a question for you. 37 applications when you lost 2 members who went on to different positions within the community. 37 people, and I want to ask your opinion, what does that mean to you? Does it mean that there's so much civic interest in the community to fill those 2 open spots? Or is that 37 people who say Toledo City Council doesn't have an idea what they should be doing?
No, I think based on the applications that we got, it was purely people who wanted to serve their community and give back to their community. It was a very hard decision. We got some incredible applicants through that process. I'm really glad we did an open call to get applicants. Sometimes it has felt in the past that it's a bit of an inside job for one political party or the other. And so by asking people to apply online, we really got a good field of candidates. We were able to talk to a lot of people and really be strategic about who is willing to serve and who is ready to step up.
We've got about a minute left in this segment. I wanted to ask you, we've seen leadership through so many community partners throughout the course of so many years. ProMedica is not carrying the ball as much as it used to. The University of Toledo may not be carrying the ball as much as it used to. Who is there to step up to kind of lead the progression in your mind? Because Fortune 500 doesn't really exist as it used to in this town.
Yeah. One thing that Toledo is very fortunate to have is a wide network of nonprofits to lean on, not just the ProMedicas or the University of Toledo. So we do have so many partners like Habitat for Humanity, like LMH, that we work with all the time. But I think
so it's not really those corporate behemoths that we've been used to.
I don't think so, and I don't think it needs to be. And then certainly the city of Toledo has definitely stepped up its game. We were so fortunate to get ARPA funds from the Biden administration, the federal government, and so we have been able to then fill the gap where some of these other organizations
and partnerships with the county at that as well.
Yeah.
Carrie Hartman, stay right there. We've got another segment to go. You can stick around?
Yeah, of course.
All right, we'll be back right after this here on Leading Edge. Welcome back here on Leading Edge. Toledo City Council President Carrie Hartman spending some time with us today. So we've got a lot of things to cover in the next 5 minutes. I wanted to speak specifically to transportation and roads. And obviously that's been a big focus for Wade, Mayor Kapsakavage, over the last few years of his administration, really all years of his administration, but specifically an idea that just came out for a roundabout at Secor and Kenwood. Are you guys ready for the hell's fire that is going to bring?
Yeah, we had a community meeting last week. I need to give props to Councilmember Sam Meldon. It is in his district, in District 5. He managed that meeting beautifully and had to do a lot of mediating, but we did hear from a lot of residents their feelings about this roundabout. So I believe that at least our plan amongst council members is to kind of go back to the drawing board, go back to the administration and say, hey, listen, we're not sure that a 2-lane roundabout is the right use for this intersection. I think we can all agree that Secor in that stretch from Central to Kenwood does need to be repaved. Traffic in that intersection either needs to be calmed or made safer for pedestrians, but Secor is one of our most important corridors in the city of Toledo.
Right.
It stretches, all the way up to Michigan, right? But specifically from 475 down to the university is a really important corridor for students, for shoppers, for residents.
Right.
And so
and as Westgate continues to develop, and obviously there it's central, and that was one of my curiosities, was putting a roundabout so close to Central Avenue and that intersection, which is already congestion filled.
Yeah. I love roundabouts, first of all, but
no roundabout angst here.
No.
Okay.
I think studies suggest that they're far more safer than any intersection, right? But they're not exactly pedestrian friendly. Yeah. And in a neighborhood like Old Orchard, where there are so many pedestrians and people walking, students even, I'm not sure this roundabout is the right thing.
So more to come on that topic.
We really have to do this the right way, though, and so that's why we're kind of ready to go back to the drawing board on it.
The city of Toledo gave the keys to Hunter Brucks to handle the summer concert series going forward this year. At this point, we're sitting here today on the 19th of May. There are 2 shows that are guaranteed, or at least he says he's got 2 ready to roll. What is City Council's concern at this point? Is there any concern because it is so late in the season?
Yeah, I think we are concerned. We knew we had to pivot when ProMedica pulled out of doing the concert series. And right, I'm not sure ProMedica needed to be the one taking the lead on that. The City of Toledo, we do not have the capacity to do it in-house, right? So we knew we had to contract with a third party. We did take a risk. But one good thing about that risk is there was no financial incentive for Mr. Brucks, so we're not going to be out any money, luckily, if this doesn't go the way we had planned. I'm hoping for the best, though. He certainly sold us on all of his connections and who he could bring in, so I am looking forward to hearing what announcement he may have coming soon, and I'm still hopeful. But if not, it may be a summer with less concerts, and we'll have to to kind of figure out how we can have fun in our parks this summer.
But the most important thing is obviously no money out of the city's pocket. I think in our last minute, I wanted to talk to something that's close to your heart because of where you've lived here in Toledo, and last week in your very seat where you are right now, Justin Moore from the Area Office on Aging said Toledo's oldest neighborhood is, according to their new study, the least likely place for you to grow old, that being Vistula. Yeah. And he said just 4 miles separating Vistula and DeVeaux Village, there is a more than 20-year life expectancy gap. What is the heart of that has got to give you pains thinking, how do we make this right? Because you can develop downtown Toledo, but we're missing something in the neighborhoods, are we not?
Yeah, we are missing a lot in the neighborhoods. And moving to the Vistula neighborhood 3 or 4 years ago when we did, it's a wonderful neighborhood. It's so beautiful. It's rich in history, but it's been neglected by the residents, by the city for many, many years. It could use a lot of extra love. And I think we are seeing that environmental impacts and the environment has impact on how we age and how quickly we age. I also think a huge piece of this is poverty. And that is the one thing that if I had a magic wand and I could solve and I could fix, it would be our poverty rate in Toledo. And so until we can kind of wrap our hands around.
Is jobs the answer?
That's one of the answers.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't think that is even the magic wand that's going to fix everything, right? I think it's resources. I think it's jobs. I think it's healthcare. I think it's mental health. I think it's crime, right? I think it's intersectional in a way that we really have a lot of very deep-rooted issues in some of these neighborhoods, but we're working hard every day with new programs and new policies.
Maybe a summit that the city brings together all of the community partners and works toward one central focus, right?
Yeah.
Carrie, that is all the time we have for this week. It moves fast. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You too. You too.
Continued good luck with City Council and going forward. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. My next segment features an author whose book, even though it's more than a decade old, grabbed my attention. It's called The Buddy System, Understanding Male Friendships. And at some point in life, you're doing one of the following. You're finding friends, you're keeping your friends, or you're being a friend. But as you'll hear, guys have a hard time with it.
So, Doctor, I wanted to start off today. I hope this becomes kind of like a how-to interview for the audience. And I wrote down 3 things. I wrote how to make friends, how to keep friends, how to be a friend. But I don't want to treat it because I feel like in our youth, it's very easy. But as you get older, maybe cross that midway point of life, things change. But I don't know what changes. What changes, Doctor?
So I think you put your finger on a lot of good points here. So let's sort of talk about the natural course of how things evolve. When we're very young, maybe kindergarten, our report card often talks about, Jeff, we have 2 Jeffs here, is good with making friends. And that becomes an important part of how one does in kindergarten. As we grow up, we are very close to our friends in grade school, very close to our friends in high school. They become extremely important to who we are as young men. Most of my research has been on male friendships. I've done something on female friendships too. So part of the task in life then is how do we grow up and stay connected to family, yet establish an independent life of our own? How do we grow up and stay connected to friends and also keep them and maybe shed the ones we don't want, maybe get new friends, and what happens across the lifespan? So what happens across the lifespan is that friends often become less important as we reach our 20s or early 30s. If we partner then, I'll say if we partner with women, we could partner with men. If we get married, we may decide to have children. We're going to be spending more time with our spouse, with our partner, with the children, and friends are going to fall by the wayside. Work will come into this too. And it's hard to balance time with your male friends, time with your spouse, time with your kids, time with your extended family, and work. So friends tend to go by the wayside.
How do you make sure that maybe every weekend there was that friend you called upon from a male standpoint. You went and golfed, you played tennis, you went out and grabbed a bite to eat. But over the months, all of a sudden, as you said, other things get in the way, or you just see maybe things changing. It's not the way it used to be. Is that fair or unfair to you? Is that fair or unfair to them?
Men don't need the same level of contact to then, again, a year later, pick up with a friend as women do, according to the research that I've done. Women need to have more contact. Men seem to be more comfortable with, hey, Jeff, I haven't called you for a year, but let's get together. We're not going to, as men, get as upset by that kind of an outreach. We seem to be able to better pick up. But our children need us less in their teens. Our children say, I don't need you to drive me to the mall as much or to watch my game. And that's when at 50, we may find ourselves, if our job is established, if our relationship is established, if our children do not need us, that's when we begin to turn and say, hey, what happened to my friends? What about my meeting my own needs now that I sort of subverted because I needed to take care of the more pressing issues of raising a family? In terms of the way that we classify friends, I have a classification system in my book, which talks about your must friends, your trust friends, your rust friends, and just friends. Your must friends are people you have to stay in touch with if you won the lottery, or if something tragic happened. You're calling those people, often men. For men, it could be a close woman friend, but you're calling that guy in the first 24 hours. Then you have people that I consider a wider circle of trust friends. You see them at parties, you're connected to them, maybe watching your kids' sports, and you have a level of trust with them, but they're just not inside that inner circle, but you love talking to them. And if you had more time, your spheres may be spinning together, but you really don't. You have rust friends, those old people that knew you as a goofball, and it's fun to be with them, and they can be your must friends, your most important friends. And then you have people at work who are just friends. They're your acquaintances. So I think an understanding of how friends need to be integrated at different levels into one's life helps one to sort out what time one has. If you're free on a Saturday afternoon, Jeff, and you say, it's the first time I've had Saturday afternoon free, you may reach out to somebody that you really want to get close to, and try and reconnect with them. Hopefully they're open to that and they're not spending a lot of their time with their friends, with their family.
Let me ask you about distance, because one thing that you said earlier really perked my ear up. You made a reference, you made an analogy to a guy talking to a guy, and you said, maybe I pick up the phone after a year, you said, and we just pick up like nothing has happened. However, that distance, and I mean, I know we probably shouldn't have distances like that happen, but they do, right? And how do you get back?
I think
how do you reclaim your friends?
I think the only way to reclaim friends is to, and this is part of the advice piece, you have to reach out. If you wait for people to come to you, most likely it's not going to happen unless you're an incredible friend magnet. But otherwise, most of us have to get involved in activities that we like to make new friends. We have to spend the time reaching out by email, which is great to start off things again, or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is these days that people are connecting through. It's a matter of not waiting for the world to come to you, but you going out and trying to make those connections that are so important to you going forward. As you get in your 60s and 70s, they become even more important, especially as losses potentially stack up in your life that are the natural course of life.
You say to be a good friend, be understanding, listen, be trustworthy, dependable, be available to do things together. Communication comes up quite a bit in your book, The Buddy System.
Yeah, communication is really important, but it's interesting because when you're making friends, part of making a friendship is being able to gauge on what level am I going to be communicating with this new person. If you are too emotionally revealing, that sometimes scares away people who think you may be too needy. It tends to be that men match up with men friends that have similar levels of masculinity writ large, meaning the football player or baseball player is going to want to hang out with the baseball player. The chess player or bridge player will want to hang out with the chess or the bridge player. Not that those are different levels of masculinity, but they are connected to activities. The poet will want to hang out with the poet. You know, we have these two notions
Finding
about
commonalities.
yeah, we have two notions about what masculinity is from the old days. One is the knight in shining armor who whisks the woman away from the dragon, but the other is the silver-tongued oratory who is below the balcony and is wooing the woman with poetry. Those are very different images, but those are both real.
Absolutely. Let me ask you in our last minute, do men have trouble making friends?
Yes, men have trouble making friends because we're not socialized to go after men. I've been socialized to try and approach women for a date. I have not been socialized in the same way for, do I call up a guy for a date? And we have to get over that and accept the fact that it's okay to call up somebody and reach out to them, even if it makes us seem a little vulnerable. Part of a friendship is learning when to be vulnerable and how to be vulnerable and how to accept vulnerability from another guy.
Dr. Geoffrey Greif was great, wasn't he? Thank you so much to Carrie Hartman as well for joining us. And thank you for spending some time with us each and every week here on Leading Edge. I'm Jeff Smith. We'll see you next time.